CTV News with Maya Johnson.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. There is frustration and concern tonight amongst parents of Rosemere High School students after a security breach. And one parent even says they've already consulted a lawyer. Sir Wilfrid Laurier School Board sent out an email yesterday with a spreadsheet containing personal information about parents, including birth dates and social insurance numbers. The board then sent out follow-up messages asking parents to delete the email without reading it and to complete a form confirming they deleted the spreadsheet and didn't copy or share it. There's more on the story on our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Meantime, some West Island residents could potentially be involved in a class action lawsuit following major flooding 2 weeks ago. Two applications for class action lawsuits have been filed against the borough of Pierrefonds-Roxborough and the city of DDO. The Consumer Law Group has filed both requests, alleging both municipalities didn't act quickly enough to prevent flooding. In a statement to CTV News, a spokesperson for the borough of Pierrefonds-Roxborough said it will let the legal process take its course and declined further comment. Quebec's English language film industry says it's being left behind as provincial tax credits and tax incentives aren't keeping up with the rest of Canada. Sweeta Rassi explains.
Simon Peacock is the president of ACTRA Montreal, which represents professional performers. He's also a working actor and says it's hard making a living in the industry here. Part of the reason, he says, is because of the Quebec government.
We're just seeing the province doesn't have an interest in English culture anymore.
He points to a lack of competitive tax credits for English language projects and says support for post-production has also been axed.
And that was part of coming to Quebec, was it sort of one-stop shopping. You could shoot here, then you could do all your post-production here at the same time, so it was much easier for the production teams to get that done. So having to now go somewhere else for that makes us less attractive.
Montreal's Mel Studio is also feeling the squeeze. Its film production lab is closing its doors, citing a lack of competitive tax incentives to attract foreign production as one of the reasons. Filmmaker and director of photography Alfonso Majorana has experienced the slowdown firsthand.
Still want to work, and I am still working, but not as much as in the past, and that's not a good sign,
With some professionals, he says, deciding to leave Quebec altogether.
They're in Toronto. They're in Vancouver.
And with productions drying up, especially following the pandemic, industry members say Quebec risks not just losing jobs, but talent. We reached out to the culture minister, but he was not available to comment. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
A teenager is celebrating a milestone after a long battle with an aggressive cancer. She became the first minor in Quebec to receive a groundbreaking treatment, and now she's helping to open the door for others. Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil has her story.
There was a time when Sophia Peze's future felt uncertain. Today, the 15-year-old is allowing herself to think ahead. She's been cancer-free since March.
And for all the things I went through, even though it was hard, I think I was pretty lucky.
Months before her diagnosis in early 2025, Sophia struggled to breathe. She felt weak and coughed constantly. Doctors eventually discovered a 15-centimeter mass pressing against her lungs and heart. Sophia describes the time that followed as brutal, aggressive chemotherapy, and days on end unable even to walk, all while being away from home, forced to stay in hospital for 5 months.
That time it's kind of a blur for me because with all the treatment, I was not really myself.
Then came another blow. Just 1 month after finishing chemo, the cancer returned. Doctors tried immunotherapy, but the cancer kept progressing. With options running out, Dr. Stephanie Murad pushed for something never done before in a pediatric hospital in Quebec, CAR T-cell therapy. The treatment takes Sophia's own cells, modifies them in a lab, and trains them to attack cancer. To make it happen, her medical team built a case with experts across Canada.
And it was unanimous in the country that people would recommend this treatment for Sophia's case. And the beauty of this product is that it lasts in the body for months, hopefully years.
Sophia's cells had to be sent to California, where they were modified before being shipped back. For doctors at the Children's Hospital, this isn't just a success story. It's a proof of a concept, and they want to make the treatment more accessible here in Quebec.
So the next steps are getting approval for the infusion, and then in the future, why not, to produce our own cells.
Sophia hopes more families will get the same chance she did. And for her father, the result is still hard to put into words.
She's a very strong girl. That's make us very hopeful, yeah. Exactly.
While follow-up appointments will continue, Sophia is focused on something she once couldn't take for granted, a future.
That's what I'm thinking about every day. I really hope that I can have a normal life again, like before that, before the cancer, before everything.
Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
There's been another theft of a defibrillator in the eastern townships. Officials in Eastman say someone has taken a defibrillator from a local park. It's the second time in 7 months that someone has stolen a life-saving device from the park. A suspect was caught last year after another defibrillator was stolen from Magog. A tenants' rights group says the housing crisis in Quebec is getting worse. According to Frappru, more than 2,000 tenants across Quebec are still trying to find a place to live after moving day. And that number only represents tenants getting assistance from local housing officials, which means there could be even more people with nowhere to go. Frappru says rising rents are a contributing factor.
Clear from Montreal that even though the vacancy rate have increased, there is really a lack of affordability in Montreal, and the rent increase have continued. Right, we have like in 1 year 10% more or less an increase. In some neighborhood goes up to like 30%, even more sometimes with the rent increase in only 1 year. So the affordability is there, and what we've been building in Montreal is also expensive, unaffordable rent.
The Montérégie is the region where demand for help is the highest, with more than 400 people getting assistance. For the first time in decades, owning a condo in Montreal is now less affordable than owning one in Toronto. While prices in Toronto have fallen drastically since the pandemic, in Montreal prices have remained relatively stable. Toronto condos still cost more, but you need a larger share of household income to own a condo here in Montreal, since average incomes are typically higher in Toronto.
Toronto, the condo market has been in full-blown correction, and we've seen price declines by more than 25%. Whereas in Montreal, the market has been very resilient. We've seen prices over the last 2 years, since the peak in 2022, over the last 4 years, move up by about 15%. You have to be mindful that for especially new condos, most of the demand comes from investors. And now that the rental market has cooled down quite significantly in Toronto, but also in Montreal to a lesser extent. The interest of investors has just effectively vanished.
For single-family homes, Montreal still remains significantly more affordable than Toronto. After last week's deadly shooting in Côte-des-Neiges, experts are warning of the dangers of the manosphere and how it's being used to radicalize boys and young men. Researchers say young men looking for tips on fitness, dating, or investing are often targeted by online communities with extremist views. One group here in Quebec is working with schools to try to prevent radicalization before it turns violent.
If we look at solutions, the solution is not a moral one, and it's not a prescriptive one of saying, this is not true and we will oppose that. This is not working. So moralizing, prescribing our values is not working. We need to address the underlying grievances. We need to address inclusion and marginalization in our society if we want to mitigate this phenomenon.
And we have more on this story on our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Spanish authorities have released new details as well as a new video related to the arrest of one of Canada's most wanted fugitives. Al Boivin was arrested last Friday in Marbella on Spain's southern coast. Spanish authorities confirmed to CTV News that the video they released is of his arrest. He'd spent more than 3 years on the run from Quebec police. Boivin was wanted by the SQ, which also accused him of gangsterism, aggravated assault, and arms trafficking. Roadwork will affect motorists driving in and out of the city this weekend. The inbound La Fontaine Tunnel closes at 11 o'clock tonight, reopening Monday morning at 5 a.m. The outbound lanes will be closed overnight tonight, but reopen tomorrow morning. Work on the Mercier Bridge will limit traffic on that span to 1 lane in each direction, starting at 3 a.m. Saturday until Monday morning. And the REM will start later than usual, only running trains as of 7:30 Saturday and noon on Sunday. Well, die-hard Canadian soccer fans are getting on planes to Houston today, where the team's next World Cup game will be played tomorrow. It is a David and Goliath matchup, with Canada ranked 30th taking on Morocco, which is ranked 6th. But the team has been defying the odds all tournament. CTV's Heather Wright reports from Texas.
Well, we are starting to see more Canadian fans show up here in Houston, as we are now less than 24 hours away from Canada versus Morocco.
This is uncharted territory for Canada's men's soccer team. They have never made it this far in the World Cup, but despite the daunting task ahead, the team says they are calm and relaxed.
We wanted to make sure that we got to the point in the tournament where we were going to get to play, an actual Goliath. And that's what this Moroccan team is. So it's about going out there, enjoying it, understanding that the whole world's going to be watching. So let's go out there and put our best foot forward.
Canada faced Morocco 4 years ago in Qatar, the final match of the group stage. They lost 2-1 and didn't advance to the knockout round, but the performance of the Canadians made an impression on Morocco.
It was a hard game, very good team. Very fit team also. I think that we started very well. I think even it was maybe one of the hardest games in the group stage.
Coach Jesse Marsh says his team is ready for what will be their toughest match by far in this tournament, against a team that is at the top of their game.
The confidence that the team had, the swagger they played with, we know we're in for a massive challenge against a really talented team.
Alistair Johnson said today the team is focused on playing the game, not the occasion. And the team is preparing for what is going to be a loud stadium with a capacity of nearly 69,000 fans. Heather Wright, CTV News, Houston.
And we'll have more on the matchup with FC Supra Chief Brand Officer and soccer analyst Paul Desbaillet a little later in the newscast. Coming up, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce tying the knot in New York.
Can't wait to see the wedding photos and everyone who's in here today.
How the celebrity couple is transforming Madison Square Garden to host a lavish reception. And a July 4th celebration amid political polarization. How Donald Trump plans to mark the country's 250th birthday. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are hosting what's being called the wedding celebration of the year today in the heart of New York City. Crews have spent the past several days transforming Madison Square Garden into a reception venue as a guest list of hundreds make their way to the iconic arena. ABC's Christiane Cordero with more from New York.
It is one of the most anticipated weddings between two pop culture powerhouses. Today, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are dancing to this beat forevermore, celebrating their marriage at New York's Madison Square Garden. Over the past several days, workers have been seen unloading equipment into the arena. Though security fencing and privacy tarps are making it hard for Swifties to sneak a peek. Still, some are trying.
I can't wait to see the wedding photos and everyone who's in here today.
It's so nice to see her so happy.
This summer heat dome keeping it 100 or so degrees outside the arena.
Don't just sweat it, baby. It's alright. You were dancing through the lightning strikes.
Inside, sources tell ABC News roughly 1,000 people are expected to be in attendance. Reps for Swift and Kelce haven't confirmed any details. Ahead of the event, a series of gifts, not to the newlyweds, but from them.
I'm blown away and overjoyed with that gratitude.
Dolly Parton's Imagination Library is one of 20 nonprofits that received a combined $26 million in donations from the couple. Dolly offered her thanks on social media.
And know that I will always love you. Mwah.
While details around the event are limited, Swifties have noted the significance of this weekend. It was almost 3 years ago to the day that Travis went to his first Eras Tour show, friendship bracelets in hand. He later said he was disappointed he didn't get to meet Taylor, at least not that night. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, New York.
Millions of Americans are celebrating the country's 250th birthday this weekend, from a ball drop in Times Square to parades and special air shows. Donald Trump is heading to Mount Rushmore in South Dakota for celebrations there tonight. Rena Roy reports.
From coast to coast, celebrations getting underway to celebrate 250 years of America.
I think it's great that we're celebrating. I mean, this is a big year for our country.
We just could not be more excited. We love America and we love living here.
In New York City, the iconic Times Square ball dropping in July for the first time in its history to mark the big birthday. The ball dropping at midnight in every U.S. time zone. And in the water along Manhattan, this parade of tall ships sailing down the East River ahead of a major maritime celebration this weekend. Large crowds expected to gather on the city's waterfront. In the nation's capital, flyovers taking place every hour in Washington, D.C. You can see paratroopers up above in the skies. This afternoon, President Trump making his way to Mount Rushmore to speak at the big celebration later tonight.
Bringing America to the memorial, and just to celebrate the first 250 years of the nation, and to do that here at the Shrine of Democracy is, all of those things coming together at one time. How can it not be magical?
But the extreme heat is impacting some celebrations. The Great American State Fair on the National Mall postponed due to the high temperatures.
The event has been postponed. We will reopen at 5 p.m.
In Philadelphia, city officials canceling today's Salute to Independence parade amid the heat wave.
Back here in South Dakota, President Trump touches down later this evening. He is expected to speak right behind us here in front of the monument. As you can imagine, security is very tight with road closures in the area and a major law enforcement presence. At Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, Rena Roy, ABC News.
The U.S. ambassador to Canada says he's hopeful the two countries can put together a trade deal in spite of the U.S. decision not to renew the current North American trade agreement, CUSMA.
Hopefully we can resolve some of the irritants and some of the other issues that are out there, and we can put together a great trade agreement. It would be good for the Canadian people, it would be good for the American people, and we can move forward. But we'll have to wait and see.
Speaking with CTV Ottawa this morning, Ambassador Pete Hoekstra said he never thought it would take this long to reach an agreement, but he says he's very optimistic the two countries can work out their differences. Earlier this week, the United States said it was opting against renewing CUSMA in its current form, meaning the trilateral trade deal will now face an annual review. Venezuela is grappling with competing time-sensitive emergencies more than a week after two devastating earthquakes, the search for the missing and the survivors who have nowhere to live. Aerial views show overwhelming destruction with toppled buildings and crumbled homes. This area is near the epicenter of the quakes that have left more than 2,000 people dead. Rescue efforts continue to find survivors. Earlier today, Venezuela's president visited one of the survivors in hospital. The security guard was trapped inside the collapsed basement of a shopping plaza, buried under 9 meters of wreckage when the successive 7.2 and 7.5 earthquakes hit. International delegates attended a farewell ceremony on Friday for Iran's late supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran's ruling clerics are preparing several days of mass funeral rites for Khamenei as a public display of devotion to the Islamic Republic. The funeral events are set to begin over the weekend in Tehran, where large-scale processions are planned. Khamenei was killed in February by a joint U.S. and Israeli airstrike. The supreme leader was succeeded by his son, Mojtaba Khamenei. Well, a day after we learned details about Alberta's pipeline plan, there are questions about the project's viability. While Prime Minister Mark Carney is confident private investment will come once it's built, not everyone is convinced. CTV's senior political correspondent Mike Lecouteur has more from Ottawa.
The Alberta Pipeline Project is officially being handed over to the Major Projects Office. The provincial and federal governments are investing in the project with the federally owned Trans Mountain Corporation in order to build the pipeline.
What the federal government is doing is creating the conditions to unlock that private investment. So there's enormous private investment that's going to come.
But some former oil executives question where exactly that investment is going to come from.
There were no shippers, there were no oil sands producers in the room saying that they were committed to actually move forward with this project.
Pembina Pipeline Corporation will have a minority stake, and Carney pointed to the government-owned Trans Mountain Pipeline as an example of a project that is profitable.
Certainly, climate change is no longer a priority.
Former Liberal Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault resigned as an MP because of the Prime Minister's climate policies, and he's concerned about the impacts of that shift.
We're seeing record heat waves in northeast Canada. The Prime Minister's plane couldn't take off because of extreme weather event on Canada Day. We had to cancel part of Canada Day.
Despite that, the Prime Minister managed to thread the political needle between Alberta and BC, whose premiers had been at odds over the pipeline. But yesterday, it seems David Eby backed off after protecting the northern tanker ban.
He's coming around and saying, well, you know, BC, he's not in favor of a pipeline, but BC is going to get a cut of it. They're not going to push. They're not going to go to court over this.
While the province is on board, the Union of BC Indian Chiefs is raising concerns not only about the environmental impacts, but also questioning whether or not the First Nations along the route have given their consent to this new project. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
2 Ontario women have been sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years for the murder of a 12-year-old boy.
I want the public to know that these boys mattered, that everyone cared about them, that they were children, that they weren't problems, that they didn't need. These women were terrible people, and they're being held accountable for their actions.
Brandy Cooney and Becky Hamber were found guilty of first-degree murder in the boy's death. They were also convicted of forcible confinement, assault with a weapon, and failing to provide the necessities of life for their treatment of the boy's brother. A first responder told the court the boy was found dead in the couple's dungeon-like basement in 2022. Cooney and Hamber had been trying to adopt the boys. Both claim they were wrongfully convicted. More than a dozen communities in east central Saskatchewan have declared states of emergency after heavy rainfall caused significant flooding.
Going into people's houses and trying to decide what stays, what goes, everything had to come up, but
baby pictures gone, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty devastating.
Just things were floating and you're like, this is people's lives, and it's very emotional.
Rain that started falling quickly on Sunday overwhelmed infrastructure, washing out highways and backing up sewage systems. Reagan Foster and Jennifer Lindgren have been helping coordinate recovery efforts in the community of Norquay. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says there are 13 communities with active states of emergency. The United Nations Weather Agency says it has raised its forecast for a strong El Nino to develop quickly in the coming months, warning it could push global temperatures even higher. The WMO was forecasting a moderate or possibly strong El Nino last month, but now says it has increasing confidence that strong El Nino conditions are developing in the equatorial Pacific. It also says it could raise its outlook again later this summer if data points to an even stronger event. UN officials say the strength of an El Nino matters because it can raise the chances of extreme weather and climate events in different parts of the world. Still to come, creating community spaces.
You have a glass of wine with your neighbor. At the end of the day, your kids play in their well.
The advantages of investing in green alleys. And fans flock to the Palais des Congrès for Montreal Comic-Con. We'll take you there.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
An increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
Well, as we reported earlier in the newscast, Team Canada is getting ready for a soccer showdown tomorrow against Morocco. The stakes are high for Canada with an opportunity to secure a spot in the World Cup quarterfinals. Joining us now is Paul Desbayet, Chief Brand Officer at FC Supra. Good to see you again, Paul.
Good to see you as well. This is the biggest it's ever been.
Yes, and this is being billed as a David versus Goliath matchup with the Canadians going in as the underdog. So give us some more background on the Moroccan team and a sense of how these two teams compare.
Well, the Moroccan team has proven themselves in African football to be that opponent, that type of team that will take whatever it needs to do to win. So with attackers, with defenders, with the midfield, it doesn't even make a bit of difference. They know what they need to do to get through, and as they proved in the African Cup of Nations just this past year. But Canada has an opportunity here to prove something that Jesse Marsh and team, the entire organization has put together with a belief system that you're already in the round of 16, which is already history in itself. And now you have an opportunity to show the entire planet. When you look at the clubs that are still in this tournament, you were there. They're there. They're already there. If they play their brand of football, and they listen to what Marsh and the rest of, the Canadian coaching staff is put down and play. I mean, they've done the research. If they play their game, I know, Canada can win this thing.
Okay, so you think this could be a Canadian Cinderella story, if you will?
Absolutely, absolutely. Why wouldn't you believe that? Because if you and I were talking not too long ago, you'd be, well, there's no chance they're going to make the round of 16. Oh, they just need, let's just do a little bit better than 2022. No. That's done. We got to stop talking like that. The Canadian football program has proven that that's no longer the conversation. The conversation just goes as far and as deep as possible, and I don't see any reason that the Canadian national, men's national team can't beat Morocco and move on.
Okay. Well, in the last game against South Africa, and we were just seeing some of the visuals there, we saw Alphonso Davies come out late in the game, and it really seemed to give the team and the fans a boost. How significant is it that he's back in the mix, and will we see him again tomorrow?
Yeah, well, so the captain came out for 15 minutes of play, and it made a massive difference. Only 15 minutes. So, I mean, there's only two ways this is going to come off. He's going to be a starter, or he'll be on the bench ready to go, and they'll pull him out exactly when they need him. He'll do more than 15 minutes worth of play because this is their do or die. There's no other opportunity here. So, I personally think he's going to start. That's my opinion. I don't think there's any need to hold him back, and we're hoping that there's nothing between him and club with Bayern Munich, sort of really dictating what might happen there.
Okay, so do or die, you said. In these knockout stages, if it's scoreless or if the game is tied, there's a possibility of going into a penalty shootout, which hasn't been the case up until this stage, right? Yeah, right, where there's extra time and then there's the penalties. Now, penalties are if you have any nails left on your flesh, like in your finger, that's what penalties are about. You're just chewing away and you're eating snacks and you can't even look anymore at that point. I don't want to get to that point. Yeah. It's too stressful. Head down, yeah, that's right. Head down because it's the most exciting point of a way to finish a match and to see a winner, and it's the worst because it doesn't do the game justice, right? Right, because these guys have worked so hard to get there. They've done the extra time. It wasn't enough, and now they go into that moment where you're just like, oh no. I mean, it's really at that point. It's all about it's about the goalkeepers have doing their proper research to know where everybody's going to kick, left, right, top, bottom. But it's just heartbreaking when it's over, but so exhilarating if you're the winner. Yeah, so no matter what happens tomorrow, win or lose, Canada's run, you alluded to this before, it's been historic so far. So, what do you think that means for the future of professional soccer in this country? Well, I think we already have seen that
Canadian football, well, football in general in this country is being played by more boys and girls. I mean, that stat exists already. I think you create a new fan, boy and girl, for what's happening right now. So no matter what Team Canada does tomorrow, you've created somebody that wants to play the game, wants to join a local club, wants to go watch, as an example, a Canadian Premier League team or an MLS team. This is the point, right? This is the point of football and of FIFA's actual ecosystem and ethos is about growing the game in different nations and countries around the world to get people active and into the game, right? That's the basis of why we have a World Cup.
Yeah, okay, well, you can catch all the action right here on CTV tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern or stream it on Crave. Paul, once again, thank you as always for joining us. It's great to talk to you.
Great, thanks for having me, and go Canada.
Go Canada. Félix Auger-Aliassime dominated in the third round at Wimbledon. Auger-Aliassime won in straight sets against Michael Zhang, 7-6, 6-2, and 6-1. He now moves on to the round of 16 and will face Spain's Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Some communities have responded to climate change by transforming urban back alleys into green alleys. In Montreal, it's been a bit of a hit or miss experience, with some alleys flourishing into community hotspots with greenery and sports. A Concordia University PhD student did a study comparing Montreal's alleys to those in Trois-Rivières, where the city funds their maintenance. Montreal, meantime, provides money for the first year, but then leaves it up to residents to pay out of pocket for the maintenance.
I think people are really attached to their alleys in Montreal, that it's a very personal space. This is partially because they are in control of managing them and they decide what they look like, but also because in many boroughs in Montreal, there isn't a lot of private green space. And by that, I mean yards. And so these are really spaces where you have a glass of wine with your neighbor. At the end of the day, your kids play in the Ruelle. It's a safe, quiet place for you to recreate in whatever that means for you.
The researchers found that tree species, vegetation layers, and canopy cover have a cooling effect, especially during heat waves.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, there's no better place to be in a heat wave than indoors with some air conditioning. Here at Palais des Congrès, I am at the 16th edition of Comic-Con, and this is really the place to be for fans of comic books across all genres, but also there's so much more than that for those who are into movies and love anything about anything entertainment. There's something cool to do here, and the headlining names say it all. We have names like Leah Thompson from Back to the Future, Christopher Lloyd as well. Also seeing Tom Welling from Smallville. He's here. So we asked organizers where to start for first-timers. Here's what they said.
It's the first time. You start slowly in the exhibition hall. Look at the shops, look at the stores, look at some of the displays. Like, for example, we are behind the Lotte Quebec area, so it's the indie games, so discover some indie games. We have some fan groups that they could check out. They could walk around slowly, and if they're looking for entertainment, head up to the 5th floor. We have 9 rooms full of entertainment.
So again, there is so much to do if you are looking for that break from the heat, and it's a good option considering what's going on outdoors right now. If we look at our current temperatures, we're seeing 30 degrees in the Montreal area, feeling warmer with the humidity at 36. And that is warmer than what is our record high temperature for this time of the year. So in 1966, we hit a record of 33.9 degrees. We are thankfully looking at a bit of a move down tonight. So looking at a warm low of 21, along with a low chance of showers shifting over to a few clouds, and we can expect some winds gusting up to 40 kilometers an hour. But as we head into tomorrow morning, we are expecting the sunshine to come pouring pouring in. So a few clouds, but that along with a wake-up temperature of 22 degrees. By tomorrow afternoon, we are expecting a bit of a more tolerable daytime high at 28 with mainly sunny skies, and we can expect similar conditions to continue on through most of the weekend. So our futurecast showing us those clouds moving through as we head into Saturday, and by Saturday evening, looking at much clearer skies, for the larger part of the province of Quebec. And again, continuing into the weekend. So on Sunday, we have more sun and clouds, looking at a daytime high of 29, feeling a bit warmer with humidity at 30. And Monday, we expect to hold on to that sun and clouds heading into next week. So looking at a high of 28 on Monday, a slightly lower high of 24 on Tuesday, holding on to sun and clouds until possibly Thursday when we see that chance of showers coming back in.
Still ahead, how a parasitic infection is spreading.
Raspberries to basil, cilantro, other fruits and vegetables, but even accidentally drinking contaminated pool, lake, even water park water.
Health officials monitoring an outbreak with a warning to look out for symptoms. And just how much more are people willing to pay for airfare during the busy summer travel season?
Your Health, brought to you by Gratianscap's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
When you have insomnia, the last thing you need is something that makes it worse. And that's why a sleep tracker isn't always a good idea. Michelle Franzen explains.
Roughly 37% of U.S. adults are not getting enough sleep, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And now many Americans have turned to using apps to help monitor their sleep. For most, these tools offer some useful feedback. But for people who struggle with shut-eye, sleep scores can trigger stress and anxiety, which can make it even harder to get a good night's rest. A recent Frontiers in Psychology study suggests taking a deep dive into Dreamtime data can create unnecessary angst for someone who already has existing sleep issues. For tips on how to get a good night's rest, visit sleepfoundation.org. And if you lay awake on a regular basis, talk to your doctor. With this Medical Minute, I'm Michelle Franzen.
Health officials are monitoring a growing outbreak of a parasitic infection with cases popping up around the U.S. Here's Olivia Rubin.
Officials say this outbreak is large and growing, at least in Michigan, where the State Department of Health says more than 300 cases of this parasitic infection have been confirmed, a significant spike from the usual 50 cases there. And the outbreak spreading nationwide, too. The CDC monitoring 145 cases outside Michigan, spanning 17 states. They say at least 20 people have been hospitalized. So how does it spread? Well, doctors say the illness comes from drinking water and food infected with the parasite.
This could be anything from raspberries to basil, cilantro, other fruits and vegetables, but even accidentally drinking contaminated pool, lake, even water park water. Now, this is water that has been physically contaminated with the parasite, usually from stool.
And what about the symptoms?
Symptoms can be pretty debilitating, including that explosive diarrhea. What's particularly scary about this parasite, Cyclospora, is you can't see or smell or taste it. So if water, fruits, or vegetables are contaminated, you're not actually going to know.
To protect yourself from infection, experts urging the public to wash their produce, even if it says pre-washed, and try not to drink that water when you're swimming. And of course, if you're experiencing any symptoms, call a doctor. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
The price of plane tickets may be high, but one survey suggests we're ready to spend to escape for a holiday. Travel search website Kayak says domestic flights cost 11% more compared to the same time last year. Meanwhile, the cost of international flights has remained stable. Major North American carriers, including Air Canada, say demand ahead of the peak travel season is strong, and that is despite the higher costs and geopolitical instability in parts of the world. Of course, the cost of travel isn't a concern for everyone. Quebec has more billionaires than every province except for Ontario. A study by the Canadians for Tax Fairness found Quebec has 27 ultra-rich families, while Ontario has 38. The rest of the country combined has 21. The study reveals the extreme wealth gap in the province, with more than 650,000 Quebecers living in poverty.
590 families have over $100 million in wealth. And so that massive gap is not just, undemocratic, unfair, but it's making it more difficult for us to do the things in a province like Quebec or in any other province across the country that make sure that people can live good lives.
According to the report, the share of wealth held by the wealthiest families has increased between 1999 and 2023.
Business news brought to you by Au Vieux de Louf. Generous and delicious plates all the time.
Shares in waste management company GFL Environmental are up today as the Canadian company considers a possible sale. BNN Bloomberg's Mirella Fernandez reports.
Bloomberg's reporting buyout firms are interested in taking GFL private. GFL handles industrial, commercial, and residential waste. It had operated out of Vaughan in Ontario, but announced earlier this year it's moving its main office to Miami. GFL is a $14 billion company which operates in both the U.S. and Canada. GFL declined to comment on the story. Home sales were up last month in Greater Vancouver. There were 10% more sales this June than last, but prices in June were down about 6% compared to June of 2025. The composite benchmark price for a residential property in Vancouver is just over $1 million. And home sales up in Toronto as well by just over 9% year over year. And in this market, prices were also down over 5%. The composite benchmark price in the Toronto area was also just over $1 million. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 70.41. West Texas Intermediate is up to 68.78. Western Canadian Select is up to 53.27. And the TSX gained 308 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Mirella Fernandez.
And time now to check in with Caroline. Caroline, of course, a lot of people wanting to take a dip to cool off in this very hot weather, but in Verdun there are new reminders about some spots that are off limits.
That's right. After several drownings near Verdun's public beach, including one already this June, Maya, they are putting up more signs to warn people not to swim in areas around the beach that are unsafe. Also, Quebec Solidaire has released its own version of an independence plan. We'll find out more about that. And we'll have more from Comic-Con, and we'll talk to some of the people there that are dressed up and excited to meet some of their favorite stars of the comics and super world, I guess, hero world. Yeah. And that's all ahead on our late show tonight at 11:30.
All right, and we saw some of them behind Anastasia. Very colorful indeed. All right, thank you very much, Caroline.
You're welcome.
Culture, community, and competition all on display as the Calgary Stampede kicks off. Alicia Fieldberg has more on this annual Canadian tradition.
Flying pancakes flipped by all three levels of government. Federal, provincial, and municipal leaders rubbing shoulders at the griddle is an annual tradition. A light moment with perhaps a bit more weight this year, ahead of talks about pipelines and a referendum on Alberta separation.
You know, this is ground zero. They joke about Stampede being the politician petting zoo, but I think it's true this year more than ever.
Listen, there's so much that we can do together. I've never been more hopeful. You know, Stampede has a way to inspire people.
This is the first of nearly 150 pancake breakfasts this Stampede, giving the community the chance to connect and celebrate.
Number one, they're free. Okay. Second, it's Stampede. It's the spirit of Stampede. 10 days of nothing but fun.
It's just a great time to get the city together and celebrate our Western heritage.
On the grounds, Thursday night's Stampede Sneak-a-Peek gives visitors the first chance to experience the midway concerts, food, and entertainment for cheaper admission. The Stampede show band and other favorites will be back, but there's always something fresh, including 2 new Midway rides, 60 new Midway foods, and some new shows as well.
On the BMO front lawn, we've got the Flying Fools. It's a high diving show. You definitely got to check it out. I looked at it. They're diving off a 25-meter high platform. It looks really skinny into a 3-meter deep pool. Kind of crazy.
Last year, 1.47 million people attended Stampede Park, and the economic benefit of all those guests goes beyond the grounds.
The 10 days alone drive more than $300 million in economic impact to the city of Calgary.
Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Calgary.
Up next, the comeback continues. After taking a hiatus for her health, Celine Dion releases another new single. Celine Dion has released a new song, her second single this year. The Quebec diva is set to begin performing in the fall with 16 shows in September and October in Paris, followed by 10 more shows at the same venue next year. She's only had one performance since 2020 when she sang Edith Piaf's Hymne à l'amour during the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics, and that performance followed a hiatus because of health issues. Back to Anastasia at Comic-Con, looking ahead to the weekend. It's going to be a hot one this first weekend of July.
That's right, Maya. But despite the heat, we are seeing people here in head-to-toe costumes. We've actually spoken to people who spent 3 months on those costumes. So if you are looking at the weather, though, we are looking at a warm low tonight, wake-up temperature of 23 and a high of 28 tomorrow, Maya.
Anastasia, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great weekend and stay cool. See you next week.